God uses difficult situations and difficult circumstances for his glory. He does it all the time. Acts chapters 5 through 8 demonstrate this over and over again. And I want to start with the end of this section of Acts 8, 1 through 8, and then work our way back just a bit. Here's what it says in Acts 8, 1 through 8. On that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. Godly men buried Stephen and mourned deeply for him. But Saul began to destroy the church, going from house to house. He dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. Those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. Philip went down to a city in Samaria and proclaimed the Messiah there. When the crowds heard Philip and saw the signs he performed, they all paid close attention to what he said. For with shrieks impure spirits came out of many, and many who were paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was great joy in the city. Persecution comes to the church just scatters. The church just dandelions out, and there's just no stopping the church. Just like Jesus said in his parables of the seeds and the scattering of seeds, that there's just like no stopping it. The mustard seed, the mustard plant taking over everything. This is the nature of the kingdom. The kingdom is designed to replicate. The kingdom is designed to scatter and go into new places and make new inroads for kingdom growth with the good news of Jesus. You're going to notice something really interesting about this in Acts 8, 1 through 8. It says, as the persecution came upon the church in Jerusalem, that all but the apostles were scattered. So these people who are going on this great mission are not the 12. They're the common everyday Christian, right? It's like the people in the pew, we might say. Like, these are the everyday people going out and evangelizing, starting churches, making disciples. It's not just the apostles doing this. This shows us and reminds us that we can all change the world. We can all make an eternal impact and difference. Now, you're going to notice in there it said that Stephen had just been killed and had been mourned. That's Acts chapter 7. And in that chapter, Stephen preaches this amazing gospel sermon at the end. They kill him for it. And it's a reminder that in life, we often teach our children that there are negative consequences for bad behavior. Sometimes there are negative consequences for good behavior. Sometimes you do the right thing and pay the price for it. There's going to be people who are not on board with good things, not on board with kingdom things. So it's important for us to remember that the measurement of what's right or wrong, good or bad, is not always the result. It's not always the consequence of what comes from it. You can be put in bad situations for doing the right thing, for telling the truth. Now, if you back up off of Acts 7 into Acts 5, right before the Stephen situation, you find them in Acts 5 where they have just healed someone. And it says in Acts chapter 5, verse 12, that the apostles were performing many signs and wonders, that they were all in Solomon's colonnade. And it says, nevertheless, more and more men and women believed in the Lord and were added to their number. Acts 5, now verse 15. As a result, people brought the sick in the streets and laid on beds and mats so that at least Peter's shadow might fall on some as he passed by. Crowds gathered also from all the towns around Jerusalem, bringing their sick and those tormented by evil and impure spirits, and all of them were healed. The high priest and his associates who were members of the ruling party were filled with jealousy. They arrested the apostles and put them in public jail. They brought them before the Sanhedrin and said, we gave you strict orders to not teach in this name, yet you have filled Jerusalem with your teaching and are determined to make us guilty of this man's blood. And then Peter says, are we going to obey you or God? We know who we're going to obey. It's the God of our ancestors who raised Jesus from the dead, verse 30, whom you killed. God exalted him, and we are going to follow him. And it says in 32 that they called the apostles in and had them flogged, and they ordered them not to speak in the name of Jesus any further. And they rejoiced because they had been counted worthy of suffering for the cause of Christ. You go back into Acts 3 and 4, that they're thrown into jail and they're persecuted for healing the lame man. Over and over it goes, where good things are being done, but certain people don't understand it. Persecution's going to come, difficulty's going to come, hardship's going to come. And we have to keep pressing ahead. Sometimes persecution is a sure sign that you're on the right track. When people come after you, you might be on the right track because they sense kingdom people as a threat to the powers of darkness. They sense kingdom people as a threat to the way that their world operates because the light exposes the darkness and people don't want to be exposed for who they are. So suffering and persecution kind of go along with the program. So why do churches grow fastest when they're persecuted? You know, church in America is in decline. Church in Africa and Asia and South America is in just massive explosive growth. And in some of those locations in the Middle East and if we're in Asia, there is sometimes great persecution going out against Christians. That's happened in India. It's happened in Pakistan. It's happened in China. It's happened in the Middle East. And, God meant us for movement. He did not mean us to sit and stagnate. He wants us to be on the move. He wants to shake us up. And sometimes I wonder if we've avoided persecution in America because we've just not been a threat. We see this here also in Acts 8, where it says Saul began to destroy the church, going from house to house. He dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. You see, before that, the women were never considered much of a threat in these kind of movements. They would not arrest women for this. They'd arrest men. The fact that the women are being arrested shows that all these believers are a threat to the ways of the world. They're a threat to the kingdoms of darkness. They're a threat to the way that the world operates. We have to be dangerous to the world as Christians. And when you're dangerous to the world, you're going to face opposition. The world's not going to like that. Satan's going to bring things against you because you're challenging the way his kingdom operates. And you notice at the end of Acts 8, 1 through 8, that suffering and persecution can produce great joy. It can produce great joy. It can touch hearts and change lives and get people on mission. It's so important that we're available to be used by God, no matter what happens, no matter what comes, no matter the consequences, that we are being faithful to what God has called us to do. And I believe we will see amazing kingdom growth. I believe we will see amazing acts of God, that we will see God bring healing. Just as we had a prayer walk a while back, and there was a man in the neighborhood who we met who was the perfect person to talk to about Uganda. You just look at it and say, what if we hadn't gone on that walk? What if we hadn't gone out there and talked to people and risk people going, oh, what are they doing? Or this is people who pray or whatever, look at you funny or say something weird. It's put yourself out there, make yourself available, and watch and see exactly what God does with that. We're not a really good Acts 8 situation in American churches. We like to gather people. We like to gather and build and count and market. In the early church, they were scattered. They were going out. They were on mission. They were on point. There wasn't any stopping them. And you couldn't just go shut them down at their denominational headquarters. They were just so scattered and so out there and knew exactly what to do that there was no stopping this movement. There's a moment in the show The Chosen. If you haven't watched the show, it's an amazing series. You can start it on YouTube, and you got to go to the app to finish in season 2, where Jesus calls the tax collector Matthew. And Peter gets pretty upset about that. He's like, Lord, this is not how we normally do things. This is different. And then Jesus looks at him and just almost a little wink and a smile and says, get used to different. It's the way we operate as Christians is not like the way we're used to operating in the world. Now, church in pandemic has scattered, and that means we have tremendous opportunity for kingdom growth. We also are going to face some difficulty as we go about doing this in new ways, in ways people are unfamiliar with. People are used to us going to buildings and gathering and having an address and a parking lot. All this is as we meet, as we gather in our homes, in our yards, people are going to say, that's weird, that's different, what's going on with that? Just expect people to get their feathers ruffled a bit by that, and that's okay. We're going to be patient with people. We're going to be kind to people. We're going to be loving to people. But if people get really antagonistic, also don't be surprised. Jesus said this in John 15, 18 through 20. He says, if the world hates you, keep in mind it hated me first. They killed Jesus over doing the right thing. And then in John 16, 1 through 4, it says, all this I've told you so that you will not fall away, that they will put you out of the synagogue. And the time is coming when anyone who kills you will think they're offering a service to God. They will do such things because they have not known the Father or me. And I have told you this so that when their time comes, you will remember that I warned you about them. Jesus is preparing us to say, hard things will come. When you're doing the right thing and you're on kingdom mission, hard things will come. But don't sweat it. God's got this. So, looking forward to the next lesson in Acts 9 and then Acts 10 over the next 2 lessons, talking about Saul, talking about Philip and the Ethiopian and how we need each other, talking about how God creates divine appointments to bring people together in miraculous ways. He's still doing that today. Thank you so much for watching this. Keep watching videos. We're going to keep putting out content. You're welcome to use this on a Sunday morning. You're welcome to use this in a Bible class. Show it anywhere you want. I just hope and pray that it's helpful. God bless you. Take care.